Hey there, and welcome to this week's Wealth Wednesdays live. Okay, uh, Wealth Live Wednesdays. That's what we call it. So tonight, what we're going to talk about is this. I just did an awesome go-to webinar for our students. Okay, and we talked about how do you actually go through and do analysis on a property. We use the example of flipping. So, but what I want to do is show you, kind of give you the bigger picture, which is this. Um, we don't actually go and do physical analysis on a property right off the bat. Like, let's say you and your realtor are out there, you're working together, you've identified some prospective properties, excuse me. Okay, and you're tempted to go look at them, go walk through the properties, do the analysis, and see what has to be done to the properties. Well, this is what I just went over in the last go-to webinar I just finished it a minute ago. Is we actually don't do that first. We actually do desktop analysis first. Okay, so let's assume you and your investor agent have identified a few dozen properties that look like they might make sense. What we do is we go through desktop analysis first. We look at the property from a financial perspective. So what I'm getting at is this. We look at what the owner is asking for the property, like what do they want to sell the property for. In and of itself, that really doesn't mean much to us, okay? But relative to other factors, it does mean a lot. So if I'm looking at a $500,000 property, or I believe it would sell for $500,000 once I've remodeled it, like the ARV market value, after repair value, right? And this owner wants $400,000 for his or her property, I'm going to keep that in the good pile, okay? And everything else we're in that neighborhood of 500,000, where people are asking 500,000 or more, I'm going to eliminate those. It doesn't make sense to look at them, okay? They're chances are they're not in distress. At some point, you've got to have an opportunity here to improve something, improve the ownership, improve the property itself, improve the finances. Somehow or other, there's got to be a value add. We wouldn't flip the property, okay? So I'm looking for properties that are priced at or below fair market value for the neighborhood, okay? Now, so what, right away, you've eliminated a bunch of properties already. So now we're down to a set of properties where we know right away the offering price is at least in our favor, okay? We don't know it's a good deal yet. What we're gonna do is this. We're gonna go through and look at other sales from the area and read the remarks and see if any remodeling was done. We're going to look for other potential flips that have just occurred in the area. We're going to see in the remarks, brand new kitchen, replace the furnace, repave the driveway, whatever that is. We'll get a pretty good idea of what was done to the property. And more importantly, we can go look at the property address and see if it's sold within the last year for a much lower price. Then chances are that was a flip, right? It's sold low at this point. Somebody put in a bunch of work in the property and sold high at this point. That's probably a flip. What I will do is I'll call the realtor, right? A lot of times the same realtor who helped the investor buy their property is the same realtor who helped the investor sell the property when they're remodeling. And I'll call them and ask them, I'll say, look, that looked like a really good flip. Can you tell me what your client did to make that such a good flip? And then you'll get a lot more details. What I can do is kind of project what they did project-wise. Sometimes the realtor will even say, you know what, they spent $40,000 on the rehab. Well, I can do the simple math and see what they bought it for. I know what they rehabbed it for, and I know what they sold it for. So I know the profit margin. I also know the commissions, everything. And what that'll do is allow me to do my own desktop analysis on my subject properties. Again, it's just basically intuitive at this point. But we have to do this because if we don't do this first, a lot of times we end up looking at a lot of properties that we have no business looking at, okay? So let's say we've narrowed things down by price first, okay, the listing price for the property. At this point, we're going to look at some other factors. We're going to look at the description of the property. We're going to look at number of bedrooms. Is there a separate family room? Is there a den? Or is there a finished basement? How many bathrooms are there? Is it one story, two story? Is there a garage? Is it an attached garage, detached garage, or integral garage? How big is the yard? Is it fenced in? Is it on a slope? All these factors, because remember, the example I'm giving tonight is we're going to be flipping a property, all right? So we're gonna basically keep narrowing things down based on our desktop analysis. At this point, I also will go out to the property tax assessor's database and look at their record, the property record for this subject property, and look at their pictures. I'm also going to look at their description of the property. I'm also going to look at, typically to give you the last three comparable sales, I'm going to look at those properties. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm narrowing down my scope of effort. I'm only going to look at maybe 6 properties, and that's it. I'm not going to look at 50 properties in person. That's not a good use of time. I'll do my desktop analysis as best I can and narrow things down first using desktop. So if I see that the basic property selling in that neighborhood right now is 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom colonials, I'm not going to look at a 3-bathroom home, right? I'm just not going to do it, okay? So that's why I do desktop analysis. Now, at the end of the day, let's say we're down to a dozen properties. If I'm doing this for myself, I'm going to do the drive-bys. I'll go drive by the houses, look at the neighborhoods, and basically, satisfy myself that, yes, if I was to flip a house, this would be a great neighborhood to flip it in. And narrow it down to about 6 properties, either for myself or for my clients, okay? Now, at this point, if it's my clients, by the way, they're doing a drive-by, it's not me, okay? Now, let's say that you or your client have narrowed this down to the final 6 properties. We're now going to make appointments to see those properties. And you, if you're an agent, you have to make those appointments, okay? Now we go look at the properties, and this is where we do everything I just described in the last webinar I just did literally an hour ago, okay? What I'm getting at is we're only going to look at the properties that we already know have the highest probability of making sense as a flip. Now we're going to go through and do the physical analysis. And the properties that need the most work, we're going to eliminate those. Again, I'm not saying you can't make money on properties with big projects. It's just the bigger the project, the more likely you're going to have cost overruns and contract and the delays and the remodeling, things like that. All that's going to cost you money. The longer it takes to remodel a house, every day that house is in your name, you're paying electric, water, gas, insurance, property taxes, the whole 9 yards. Carrying cost, okay? Plus, it's one less day you get your money back. So I want to do the houses with the smaller projects. So let's say we narrow this down now to the 3 best properties based on our desktop analysis, our physical analysis, and in comparison with each other. What we'll do is we'll look at the 3 side by side. Actually, the first thing we'll do is we'll go through our rehab analysis form and double check all our numbers. Now that we've done the physical walkthrough of the property, we've got photographs, we got our information forms filled out. We're going to basically build out a rehab sheet and make it as clear and as accurate as possible. We'll take that, we'll subtract it from, like, let's say the ARV is $500,000, 500,000. Right off the bat, guys, we're going to knock off 30% for profit and overhead, 20% profit, 10% overhead. That's carrying cost, okay? That takes us down to $350,000. That's the most we can pay for a property in a neighborhood and still turn a profit. Now, let's say we got rehab of $50,000. We're now going to reduce the $350,000 by the $50,000 rehab, which leaves at $300,000. That $300,000 is the most we can pay for that property, is still profit after we've rehabbed, paid for carrying costs, and also give ourselves a 20% profit margin. That's really how we do the process, guys. And the reality is when you do it that way and you're making offers, you're not making hundreds of offers hoping 1 or 2 will stick. You're making the best offers on the best properties based on analysis. Desktop first, physical next. We're not trying to buy the best, most expensive. We're not trying to buy the cheapest. We're only buying the properties that, based on our homework, we determine make the most sense for flipping. And quite frankly, when you do it that way, you don't have to make 50% off list price offers. You generally, maybe you go down 20% or something. But the point I'm trying to make is this: is your batting average is much higher. You'll probably have a 65% batting average on your offers. In other words, 2 out of 3 offers will get accepted. In any case, that's what I wanted to cover tonight, guys. It's a critical process. In fact, if you master that one thing I just described, that process I just gave you, I promise you're going to be more successful. And if you're an investor agent, you definitely want to master this because you want to go through this with your clients too. So in any case, guys, I appreciate you participating. I will see you next Wednesday on WealthWise Wednesdays, right here on My Investment Services Facebook page. You guys take care of yourselves. If you got any questions, obviously type them in, let me know, and we'll get back to you before next week. In the meantime, you guys take care of yourselves. God bless you, and I'll see you on the path of prosperity. Okay, take care, guys. Bye-bye.